afternoon, guys. It's Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor, coming live from San Antonio, Texas, along with my beautiful co-host, Kristen Nolan. Good to see you, Chris. What's you been up to?
Hi, good to see you, Doc.
What you been up to?
Not much. This week was like I worked on my YouTube channel, and
Ooh, nice.
yeah, I'm starting a YouTube channel.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, and then just getting the house all together because my grandparents returned home. They were gone for the whole summer.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's good. It's a big, big house, but now it's a home when they're here. It's the love and the energy.
Wow, I love that. Absolutely. Trying to think what I've done this weekend. I've saved lives, stopped people dying, saved some more lives. Oh, yeah, just like that. That's why. No, I'm joking. I've been working away real hard and got some beautiful patients on board right now. The only thing that's a downer for me is I go in for surgery a week on Monday. If you want to find out what it is, message me, I'll tell you. But they've got me on this strict pre-op diet, which is 2 shakes a day and like 4 ounces of protein. Oh, and a protein and a Jello every day. It's like I lost 10 pounds in a week, but I will kill anybody for a cheeseburger. But it's all good. It's all good. Guys, thank you for joining us, guys. Good to see you. You know what it is every Friday, Breaking Through Addictions, coming live to you from San Antonio, Texas, and all over Facebook and YouTube to start with. That's where you can watch us live. We got the questions going. If you've got any questions, slip it in the comments there or text me or message me for the guest. We've got Pam Knight coming off. What a story. Wow, she's beautiful to look at as well, guys. You'll be awesome there. And ladies, I think you could learn a thing or two with their experience. It's amazing how these people come to us, but really looking forward to speaking to her. So, guys, get ready. Pam Knight coming on right after this. Welcome back, guys. My name's Dr. Rob, the Addiction Donkey. The Addiction Donkey? What am I talking about? This is Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor, along with Kristen Nolan. Glad to see you guys. Our special guest in the next 25 minutes is Pam Knight. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, Pam. How are you?
Good afternoon. I am wonderful. It's a beautiful day here in Maryland. It's like 73 degrees. Feels like fall, so it's a great day.
Where are you?
I'm in Maryland.
Oh, nice. I have friends there. Yeah, very nice part of the country. Beautiful. So let's kick it off by, first of all, telling people who you are, what you do, and then we'll get back into the good stuff, as me and Chris call it.
Well, my name is Pam Knight, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. I am passionate about taking my pain. My hardest things I've ever done sober, but I want people to realize, and I also have a son that has struggled, so I get it on both ends. I know what it is to be that it's an active addiction. I know what it's like to be that parent, and that was a much harder journey for me.
Wow, that's a bit crazy.
Yeah.
So let's take you back to the beginning, so everyone can get some information and courage. Where did it all start for you regarding the addiction? What age were you and where were you when that started?
I was in my mid-30s. I had never, ever in my life experienced taking like a Vicodin or Percocet.
So 5 years ago?
Oh, no.
No. Well, you said in your 30s. I'm saying that must be 5 years ago.
It was 20-some years ago.
Shut up.
Shut up. It's the truth. But anyway, my youngest was playing a football game, and I'm the cheerleader mom. And we were on top of these bleachers, and they were old, and there wasn't like a back on it. He made a really good play, jumped up, and I fell straight down, and I just crushed like 3 of my vertebrae. So I was rushed to the hospital, and that was the first moment when I was given Vicodin. And oh my, I felt like Superwoman. I loved the feeling. And I didn't abuse it in the beginning. I truly didn't. I went to physical therapy. I got better. But then as time went on, it was like, would be going out and I'd be like, I really don't want to drink, though I was a heavy drinker. I want a pain pill. And what started out as innocent turned into, I had a monster on my back. And now I am doctor shopping and I'm buying them on the street. I'm with people I have no business being with. But I could not stop because I had no idea how awful withdrawal is. I mean, I would try to go 2 or 3 days and I had the flu and my anxiety would be so high. I'd go right back. And every time I'd go back harder. And so now I was harboring this awful secret. And I just thought this was going to have to be my life. I mean, I didn't see the way out, sort of thing.
Pam, you described how your son also became dependent on pain pills as well because of a football related injury?
He had back surgery and they had him on, I mean, everything, morphine. He was on everything. And little did I know, he went to snorting heroin. And I saw changes in behavior, but I just couldn't put it together. And I also think as a parent, you just cannot even imagine swallowing that pill that, substance abuse disorder.
Yeah. As moms, I know that my mom had no idea when I was up to stuff, and it's just painful
Right.
to go through and watch that stuff because you're basically watching your son killing himself.
Exactly. It's like you are totally running and numbing from your life. And but when you're a parent, all this guilt immediately comes on. What did I do wrong? And nothing. Nothing. We're powerless over someone's addiction, but going through it, let me tell you, it's not like if you have a kid that's sick, your friends are going to bring you flowers and they're going to bring you dinner. Yeah. By telling, the parents that your child hung out with. And I remember that was it. I mean, they came up with every excuse. Well, oh no, my son, he must have been doing that by himself. I'm like, well, he's in treatment and I know they hang out all the time. And it was like, oh, absolutely not. And then that was it. Like I was cut off. Like they didn't want to be friends with me anymore. And it was very, very hard and upsetting, but it just made me want to fight more to truly educate, because I feel like there's a huge component missing in our industry. We have to educate the family. Your loved one can't come back home. You've got trauma too from, walking on eggshells with your child. So it's this, I always tell parents, I mean, there's no magic wand, it's time. They're not going to be fixed in 30 days. And when I do a lot of public speaking and there are adults there and parents, I always say to them that dangerous words to come out of your mouth are not my child. Mm-hmm. You continue with that attitude and don't get yourself educated.
Yep.
Smacks you in the face when the realization kicks in.
Of course, about 12 months ago, we decided, we've been doing this for a long time, but we decided that if the alcoholic comes on board, let's say it's the husband, we will not take you unless everyone in that house. So the husband needs to come on. Anybody over the age of 16 living in the house has to come on. And if they go, well, I don't want my kids involved, we go, okay, let's take it easy. We'll see you soon.
Right, because it's not going to work. And then it becomes like, in and out of treatment, sober home. But, here, people aren't really open talking about it. So therefore, it's all new to them. I mean, and I get it. Like when first I AMA meant, I didn't know what pause meant. I was thrown into this world that I could tell you I did not belong, but I truly did belong. I met all walks of life, and I could tell you that I will never ever judge a person. I haven't walked in their shoes. And we need to be better. Someone that's hurting just needs someone to listen to them,
I loved how you just said that. Don't judge unless you walk in their shoes, because that's one of my huge, big principles that I live by as well. I know we were just discussing your son and yours dependence on the pain pills, but you did say in your bio that you have 8 years now, and your son has 5.
Almost not. Yeah, I'll have 9 in January. Yes, and
nice.
It's very hard for young adults because let's think about it. Our society pushes, every commercial, it's Corona. It's always some alcohol that has to be involved. And when you're dealing with young adults, they have to find a whole new tribe of friends. Otherwise, if they come back and hang out, then it's just game on. And I watched it with my son. The bottoms do get worse to the point where my son was last time, was in ICU for 6 days, and it just rocks your world.
It does. It does. But I'm all with you there, Pam. So when we started this organization, we knew that the treatment centers, there was something wrong. There was 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. And 70% of treatment centers take the money at the time. Come back. We'll take your money. I hated that. I still hate that. It's like you're in it for the wrong reason. Why don't you do what we do, treatment centers, and offer a money back guarantee if they relapse? Unheard of. But we're putting our money where our mouth is.
Wow.
And that's what I've got no time for it. It's like, let's get the information out.
Right.
Let's get these people through a proper 90-day, we call it, because it takes 90 days for the brain to be remapped and reformed with the behavior. And what I do as well, Pam, and this is my buy-in because you'll love this, is they come on for 90 days, 1 hour a day. Telehealth is all we do these days. 5 days with me, 2 days with my psychotherapist. We have coaches, we have texting, we have all this stuff. But when you finish the course, you get 30 minutes with me free for the rest of your life. That means any Sunday you can jump on the phone and go, hey, Dr. Rob, just want to chat for 10 minutes. But, oh, yeah, okay, Johnny, what's going on? Blah. My Sunday's sometimes tied up for hours and hours with these guys calling in. And that's giving back. That's putting your money where your mouth is. There's an epidemic going on, in this world, and we're closing our eyes to it because all of a sudden now when alcoholism and addiction starts to, come across the earth and lift its head up, it's like another pandemic comes across and destroys it.
Correct.
I don't know about you, what you've gone through, Pam, but I'll tell you for a fact, having gone in hospitals and done research, that alcoholism and addiction kills more people than anything else. In fact, everything else put together, but we're not reporting it properly. Oh, Johnny overdosed. Why? Oh, he just had too many. He was partying too much. Oh, the alcoholic died, his liver. They go down as, frying pan. They go down as car accidents. They go down as, it's crazy. If we start reporting, then we take more notice.
No, you are so, I'm so with you on that. It's hard for somebody to understand that doesn't understand, but I mean, honestly, if you do 30 days or you're lucky, maybe you get 40. Let's face it, the real work does not start until we leave that treatment center. And
Correct.
If we don't find people to learn how to live again, because it's learning how to live all over again. Obviously my way didn't work, so I had to find a sponsor. I had to find someone that was going to, in a sense, reteach me how to live. And nobody wants to, hear that part. Everybody wants the quick fix, and there isn't. But the good news is that we do recover. And I mean, it's the gift of life.
It is. And that's what people do. Sorry, Chris. So listen, this is what I do to people. I go, hey, so this here is where the alcoholic's home is. That's where he lives with his wife and his kids and everywhere. So we take him out. Let's say, for instance, this house speaks German. Okay, because recovery has its own language. Right. So we take this guy out of a German-speaking house, we bring him to treatment, we teach him Japanese. Then at the end of the course, we send him back to the German house, and he starts speaking German again. Why wouldn't he?
Exactly.
It's like we believe that you must recover in your own environment. Yes. Otherwise you're going to relapse.
I love that analogy, and you're speaking the truth. That is exactly what it's like. So.
I've been known for that, Pam. I've been known for that. Sorry, Chris. Go on.
You're good. So my heart, like I have such a more special place in my heart, of course, for all addicts, because I am one, and alcoholic, I am one. But I just have a special place for the ones that were prescribed these pills and became addicts, because I feel like, it wasn't a matter of wrong choices. They were just doing what the doctors told them to do, and it's just such a big part of my heart. And I know you are one of those people. Do you think that it's important to raise awareness to people of the potential, dangers? And how do you think we can do that?
Absolutely. I mean, you're giving someone a very powerful drug. Why can't doctors take 30 seconds to be like, okay, look, I'm giving you, and don't give them 90 pills. I mean, give them 15 and be like, as soon as you can, switch to Advil or Tylenol, because this can be habit forming. At least you're bringing up the conversation, because what happens is, if you've never had that conversation or know that, then when you're trying, so hard to get better, and you're going through withdrawal, you don't know what to do. So I do. I don't understand why they can't have a quick conversation, why there aren't maybe different, I always talk about the labels on the bottles, but then I think to myself, when I'm dealing with people, think about it. How many people are on antidepressants? It says on there, don't drink alcohol, and they do. I mean, it's human nature, but I do feel like, we do need to educate all walks of life. Power. But I do feel like the doctors, seriously, there needs to be, a conversation brought up when you're giving these, pain pills out.
Yeah, find out if there's addiction in the family. Them guys that don't, I mean, I went myself, we tested loads of doctors before we would work with one, MDs, and they would just write prescriptions for, some crazy, either heavy drug or some crazy amphetamine salts. But here's the question I asked to everybody is, what the hell happened to morphine? It was good enough for my mom when she was having shit, or my dad got into a huge car accident. It was good enough for him. What's happening with that? What are we more perceptive of pain these days? I mean, has pain got different so that we know that we need a stronger drug? And the answer, my guys, is no. And I'll tell you why. Because the pharmaceutical companies run this country. Remember being 12 months ago, maybe, if that, I'm on a national TV program. I'm there, and I think, and an attorney there, I think was and we're talking about Purdue, and I slammed them on national TV, slammed them, and saying you should be ashamed of yourself. So the next day they file for bankruptcy. I'm not saying it was just me that did it, but these guys need to be outing, because we know that if you're selling a brand new, if you're giving away or selling or prescribing a brand new drug, you're doing that for a reason. You're doing that for a monetary reason, and don't sit there and go, "Oh, you're doing that for how many people have you fucking killed handing that stuff out for a backhander? We don't need that stuff. Why are you killing our kids?" I swear to God, Pam, 99% of heroin addicts that walk into my practice, I ask them one thing: where did it start? And 99% of people say it started with the doctor's office.
Yes. That's the truth. And then they go to heroin because they can't afford it. I mean,
This should be allowed. People are, the doctors. I always say, don't trust your doctor.
Right.
Don't trust what your doctor says.
Exactly. And then you have to be strong enough whenever you do re-enter back into your family, you have to be open and honest with your dentist, with your doctor, so they know that, and it's funny because doctors, they know so little about addiction. I mean, I have sat in offices at Johns Hopkins and hear my story because no one's ever said to them, "Oh, well, I'm in recovery, I can't take these pain pills." And their answer first is something like, "Don't you have somebody that can't just give them to you?" And you don't get it. No, let me explain how this works, sort of a thing. So it's just irresponsible for them not to get the education that they need, because you're right. We're losing people right and left now since the pandemic. I mean, I've been super crazy busy because think about the worst thing for someone, who is struggling with substance use disorder. The worst thing for them to do is withdraw. Well, with the whole COVID thing, and that's, one of the first signs that you're going to start, using again, because we need interaction. And that's why meetings are so important, because now we're surrounded. We have a tribe. And we can relate, and we can help them, just like who helped us.
Yeah, so true. So I wanted to ask, this is a question I ask most of our guests, and I always say that there are many pieces to the recovery puzzle. For instance, mine was medication, therapy, medication as prescribed.
Right.
What are your pieces to your recovery puzzle?
Oh, for me, I was a huge, I stuffed my feelings. I was the oldest of 4 kids, big Italian Russian family. It was really hard for me to understand that boundary, and that boundaries were okay, because if Pam was going to stay, healthy and sober, there was a lot that had to change. I can tell you that entering back into my family was the hardest part of my journey. And that's why I say it's so important for, families to be educated and for them to actually, process their trauma. And for me, if I didn't have it after that I had, I probably would have went back out and used, because I mean, they speak triggers, and you don't believe it till all of a sudden you're back in your hometown. Triggers are real. You just, whole body, has anxiety. So for me, a huge piece was, number one, finding a sponsor that I could trust and that I knew I needed to follow her directions. And number two was just really good aftercare. And number three was, for once in my life, just being open and honest. I came back and I told everyone the truth. I was done with it, because that's what keeps us sick. I don't want to be lying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. There's a 12-step group out there that has a blue book. It's been known to be called the Big Book.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of that book, and I'll tell you why. Over the last 10 years, we found out, because I study neuroplasticity and I study neural pathway change with addiction and the behavior change, central nervous system, all that stuff. That's why the percentage rate is so high. We know what we're talking about. It's not about the alcohol, guys, or the drugs when it comes down to it. It's got about 2% to do with it. So we have to look at other things that are going on. But, it's really important that we kind of get this message across to everybody. And it's people like us three here, especially me and Pam, are out there talking, because it can become a lonely place. Don't know about you, Pam, but it became a lonely place for me because the stuff I was teaching and talking about, the government always says, if somebody comes across something that tries to be public about it and you don't want it to get out, the first thing you do is ridicule them and shame them publicly. And I had a lot of that going on. But, we stand up and we do it. And when we do it, because it's the right thing. So that change of everything, when you come out of treatment center or IOP or whatever it is, aftercare is aftercare is more important than the actual program with some cases, because the neural pathways, I have billions of neural pathways in my head like everybody, but 70% of my neural pathways are self-sabotaging. Which means that after any considerable period of time when I'm trying to build this life up, I smash it down. And the reason I smash it down is because of childhood trauma, and that I hate myself, and I don't believe that I can do this, and I'm not good, and nobody likes me, and all that self-sabotaging stuff. But when it changes over to self-care, the neural pathways get smaller and smaller. So I always do this. This is my main neural pathways, which is self-sabotage. Okay, what we do is we work on this. So what happens over a period of time of the 90 days is we're left like this. This is the self-care. This is amazing life. But this guy's always going to be here. So this is what I do. I stopped going to that meeting, Pam. And then, I didn't take that sponsor. I didn't work with that guy. I didn't call that guy. And bang, that's the relapse. Because alcohol never comes to me on a Monday and go, hey, Rob, let's have a drink today. Right. It's a week or a month before when my behavior starts to be irritable and behavior changes. And I think that's what we need to look at as well is the aftercare. What are you going to do after this? Well, I've got nothing planned. Well, you will relapse.
Well, exactly. And you will, because, let's think about it. First of all, some people still don't even understand how hard it is to medically detox the opiates. And also alcohol. You're so having seizure. It's scary, scary stuff. And what I can tell you about opiates is that, oh boy, I went 5 days trying to do it on my own and lying to my family and telling them that I had the flu. I have never in my life been so sick, and I've never in my life, my brain was crazy. Like, I wanted to jump out of my body. Hydrated, I couldn't keep anything down. And my daughter came over, and for an hour and a half, she just would not leave me alone. Till finally I broke down and I said the words, and I felt like time just stopped. I knew nothing about treatment. It was like, oh, they're going to put me in a box and I'll be better. But all I knew was they said they were going to medically detox me. And all I knew was I was so sick. I was so weak that they'd use a wheelchair to get me down to, get the airplane. I hadn't eaten. It was just, I've never been so sick. And some people, they're like, oh, it can't be that bad. Yeah. It's like the flu times 100. And people even go as far as to say, but it won't kill you. Well, I was in the hospital for 3 days because my heart was fast. And basically that's when I learned what pause was, after the cardiologist was like, this is pause. Your heart's reacting, post-acute withdrawal syndrome. Like, oh, God, right? We don't think about our health when we're in it, sort of a thing. So then that doesn't much time really for treatment. And to be honest with you, you'll get over the physical part of the, of the detox, but then comes the hard part. The hard part's working on ourselves. I mean, we have to come to terms with, I mean, what are we running and running from? I mean, we all have trauma in our lives, and until we're ready to try ER or something, you don't get better.
Yeah, we're big on every alcoholic has trauma, period.
Absolutely.
Oh, I've never been in a plane crash. No, that's not trauma. Trauma is stop it, you stupid idiot. How many times have I told you can't go to college like your brother? You're too thick. This is anything less than nurturing as a child is child abuse. End of story. Not even going to argue with it. That's the way it goes, you know. And we need to look at that. You know, if you're sat at home and you can't afford to go to treatment, you've got no insurance. There's a great group out there. They call it a 12-step group. I can't tell you who they are because I don't want to advertise, but they're right at the beginning of the phone book. And if you go there, you will find a blue book. Now, let me talk about the blue book. It's the most fascinating and informative piece of literature I've read in my life. And I've been going to college and universities for 20 years on addiction. But these guys were talking in 1938 when they wrote the book about a psychic change, which most people think is something magical, like psychic, going to tell you your future. Psychic of the mind, psychologists, psychiatrists, change. It's a change of mind. Unless you have the change of mind, you will not recover. I am a recovered alcoholic. Recover means to gain one's health and state of mind back. That's me. And only 10 years ago did the medical fraternity come out and go, oh my God, the brain's like plastic. We can redivert neural pathways. It's like, well, these guys in 1938 were talking about it. Why didn't you pick it up then? And the reason why nobody picked this up is there's no money in recovery. End of story.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And
pharmaceutical companies run this deal.
Yeah.
They can't get you a pill or a treatment center to go. Don't want to know. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's almost like it needs to all be blown up and put back together. You know, there's not enough time because there's so many people dying, right? So it's very challenging, and it's very challenging when you come across somebody that and they're begging for help. Because I'm telling you, hardest part is to admit. But once we admit, we need to be able to get to a safe place where they can start detoxing, you know, and they need help. You know, but it's just, I get it, because are we going to turn down someone that comes in, they think they're having a heart attack, to the emergency room? I mean, when it comes to this whole substance abuse area, there's so many different pathways, and there's so many people telling you different things that it's just not good.
Go on, Chris. Sorry, I've been asking lots of questions. Go on.
No, you're good. It's your show. It's all good.
Our show.
Pam, you founded a project called the Faces of Recovery, correct?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
So I basically, you know, what I knew early on was that addiction doesn't discriminate, because look at me. I mean, on the outside, I look fine. On the inside, there was nothing but trauma. So I wanted to take people from our community, different ages, really wanted them to speak about what recovery meant, because I feel like we have so much negativity, and it's the truth. How many people are dying and blah, 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 blah. Who talks about recovery? I mean, that's the gift of life. That's the beauty of all of it, you know, but there are steps to get there. But until people realize, you know, you give them hope that they can. And so by being open and honest, people really, it resonates. I mean, when I speak in high schools, and that's probably my favorite thing in the world to do, because I've always been able to connect with young adults, but I'm raw and honest. And these kids, I'll sometimes have 2 or 3 waiting, because they barely know me, but yet they want to talk to me about their mom or their uncle or their brother. And think about that poor kid in school. They're not performing like they should, because at home, look at what's going on at home, you know, sort of.
Exactly. Yeah. And we need to pick up on that, and we need to pick up on it quick.
We do.
That's the deal. And the more I've worked with some of the biggest movie stars, footballers that you can think. And every time we finish, I ask them, can we go public with this? And they all say the same thing. No, first of all, but you can mention my name to people in recovery. So, you know, I remember buying one rapper, famous rapper that wasn't black, this AA emblem.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, AA, sorry. Emblem for like $2, guys. That's all it was. And I saw him in concert somewhere, the very first concert he did, and you could see the little chain hanging. And I thought, that's humility. A guy's going to keep sober. So unfortunately, we're coming to the end, Pat. I so wish we had a full 2 hours to pick you in because you're so fascinating, and you're hot. Me and you need to meet up or get together, because I never knew you were the girl that founded Face of Recovery. I did some articles for Faces of Recovery 14 years ago. So, yeah, we're going to have to get together. There's some amazing things we can do. So I want to thank you, first of all, and I want to thank you for a couple of things. I want to thank you for being you, because it can be a lonely journey. And not many people think, oh, Pam already knows. Oh, she's amazing. Yeah, but no, we don't. So I want to say this. I want to recognize you for being you, for helping hundreds of thousands of people with that ripple effect going on to get their life back. I can see and hear the passion. We share the same recovery direction. And it's just amazing. And it's been an honor, absolute honor for me to have you on here. And I'm sure this is not the last we're going to hear on you. We'd love to have you again. But thank you so much. And I'll leave Kristen to say bye.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for being on our show.
Oh, same to you guys. You're rock stars. Thank you for having me on the show. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Pam.
Bye.
Guys, right back after this. Hey guys, welcome back. My name's Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor, along with my lovely co-host Kristen Nolan. If you're just listening only and not watching, that was Take 12 Radio. I know I do a spot every month there, and it's called Dr. Rob's Hour. And the guy running that is just absolutely fantastic. Monty Myers, if you ever want to look him up, he does some amazing stuff, and you really need to tune in. The longest radio recovery station ever. It's been running for about 20 years or something like that. So give him a like or Facebook or message him. Kristen, that was awesome.
Yes, it was.
She knows the stuff. She's very, very passionate. I love that. Just like my next guest, or our next guest, should have said, Frank Rich is on the show, guys. This guy is the first time I saw this guy, and I think we did something together. I think got a memory like a sieve, I'm telling you. But I just found him fascinating. And finding that the belief and the stuff that he does and the passion and, you know, all this stuff that he brings together, people get excited about. And I get excited about. When I finished the show with him, it was like, oh, my God, who is this guy? You know, I said to him, I called Courtney up. Who is this guy? And then she explained who he was. And I'm like, wow, we need more of these people. We need more of the Pams. We need more of the Franks around. Because the thing is with Frank and Pam is they don't give a shit who's not saying this. They're going to say it because it needs saying. And it takes a strong man and woman to do that in this industry where most people want to keep us quiet and stick them in treatment for 40,000 to do the same month and the same month and the same month after that. And some people stand up and go, hey, this is me being me. So really looking forward to that. What about you?
Yes, I can't wait. I've got my questions ready.
Nice. Okay, we can see Frank in the green room, but guys, you can see him straight after this. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show, guys. My name's Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor, along with Kristen Nolan. This is Breaking Through Addiction every Friday around noon. You can find us until 1 o'clock Central Time. Today it's 1 till 2 because of prior engagement. But yeah, we're telling things that you don't normally say. We're saying things that you daren't say. So somebody has. But again, what an amazing guest, Frank Rich. Frank Rich is on the show, guys. Hey, Frank, how you doing?
Hey, Dr. Rob. Good to see you again, man. Thank you for having me on here.
Hi,
Kristen.
Frank.
Hey, Kristen. Good to see you.
What have you been up to?
Oh, man. We're getting incredible feedback from our conversation that dropped this past Monday on the Superhuman Life. So that was just a fire conversation. I heard you talk about your kind of energy after the show, like that was my pre-workout that day. I went and had one of the best workouts I've had in a really long time. So I'm super excited to dive in here today, wherever you guys want to go. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity here to speak to your listeners. It's
crazy because we get the people on first that we don't know, and we ask them, is there anything we can't cover? Because we know the second gift, like Frank, open book. Ask whatever we need to ask, get the message home, have fun on the way. So it's amazing. So just remind my viewers and listeners what you do and who are you?
Yeah. So I guess in, kind of quick, I'm the CEO and founder of Rebuilt Recovery. Our mission is to help men overcome their addiction to pornography through the power of faith and fitness. For the last 18 months, that's been, my primary focus. I also host a podcast, which I mentioned, called The Superhuman Life. But this work, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit today, is, it's a result of my own kind of personal story and transformation. I don't think you don't wake up one day and decide like you want to, get into the, the industry of helping men with porn. It's a, very sensitive and taboo subject that a lot of people, are open to having the conversation. But, I've had to overcome my own struggles, and that's really lit me on fire to help spread this message of awareness on the dangers of pornography, but really enjoy getting in the weeds and working one-on-one with men. So yeah, that's really what I'm excited about, and I guess that's who I am in kind of a short 60 to 90 seconds.
Excellent, thank you, Kristen. I know you got a question for Frank. Fire away.
Okay, so you just mentioned, and this one I didn't have written down, but you just mentioned the dangers of pornography. You said you're about raising awareness of it to people. Can you maybe describe, give us some examples of the dangers of pornography?
Oh wow. Where do we go, and how long do we have? I think, and first let me preface this context. When I talk about pornography, I'm describing internet streaming pornography. What we see readily available. This infinite amount of supply. I mean, there was a statistic shared early last year that one site, which is the most popular site that people know about, had 165 years of content, which basically meant that you would have to sit there, for 165 years to consume all of it. And there's millions of videos, uploaded every single month. I think probably the biggest danger that most people don't understand is the impact that it has on our brain and our reward center. In the neuroscience world, internet streaming pornography is what's known as a supernormal stimulus, meaning from second exposure, literally the first or second time you look at it, it changes the way that your brain fires and releases dopamine, literally sets it for a new baseline. So I think probably the biggest danger that most people don't realize is it hijacks your pleasure center, it hijacks your reward center. So over time, and a lot of what I see with men is they don't find joy or excitement or happiness in any other area of their life other than seeking out to try to find more pornography. So, I mean, that's probably the biggest one that I address with the coaching that we do. But there's this whole other side that I'm also involved with a couple of nonprofits that raise awareness to human trafficking and the link between the two. I don't believe that you could be anti-human trafficking and pro porn because they're one of the same. One is kind of the marketing department for the other industry. So that would probably be the two, hijacking your brain, your reward center, and then the kind of dangers that are going on behind the scenes.
So that having been said, Frank, is all porn harmful?
Is all porn harmful? It's a great question. And due to my faith and my belief, I mean, I am a Christian, and it's the most important thing to me in my life. So yeah, I mean, as a believer, lusting after a woman that's not your wife is a sin. But did that make it harmful? Harmful to the soul, harmful to the heart. But pornography is something that's been around, since the dawn of time. Like you can find, these pornography drawings in caves, and so I don't know about like the harmful aspects that you get when I reference the internet streaming pornography. But for the soul of an individual, for the heart of a person, and what it does to how it prohibits, real connection and real intimacy, I would probably answer yes to that question.
The second half of that question would be, what's the statistics around people watching heavy porn, like Schoolgirl or Rape It, all that stuff online that you can actually search and download free? What's the correlation there between watching it and acting that out?
Great question. Well, it's that sensitization, desensitization effect that you see in all addiction, in all issues with whether it's substance or porn or shopping. So most people don't get into pornography seeking those genres. They get into it whether it's induced through trauma or they're seeking some type of connection. But understanding how the brain works and how we talked about how it changes those baselines and how your brain operates from the reward center, you're not going to get the same feeling, the same hit of the first time you looked at pornography. So that's where you're going to begin to explore and get into these other genres. So I don't think there's obviously a direct correlation. I don't think that looking at porn is like it's always going to take you to the path where you're purchasing human trafficking, you're looking at massage parlors or escorts. But in order for you to get there, you have to go through the pornography tunnel. So there's a direct correlation. But yeah, I mean, anybody that's been watching pornography for more than 3 months or 6 months or a year will tell you that the things that they're enjoying looking at now, or the things that they feel they need now, are not the same type of videos or images that they had to get started with. And that's just that sensitization, desensitization effect inside of the brain.
Wow. Whenever I read your bio or the email that you sent me, I found it so interesting because, first of all, it wasn't a substance, which all of the guests that we have, well, a lot of them, most of them, it's always a substance. So I found it extremely interesting and a little bit daunting as well, because one of my traumas is centered around porn. And that's a huge trauma for me. So it was really exciting and, all that for me to be able to interview you today. I wanted to know, like, what did you think? Do you think that your infatuation with porn was because of the chemical reactions in your brain, or was there something more that was maybe like psychological, emotional? Was there something like lack of love or something like that? Do you think it was all just chemical, or do you think it was also like, personality or something like that?
Yeah, so I get this question, a lot. And, in the beginning, and for context, I think it's important to maybe share my age and when I was first introduced to pornography. 38 years old, it's probably sometime, around the ages of 6 or 7 when I first saw pornography. So anybody, just if you can do some quick math, like this is pre-internet. This would have been in the late 80s. So I think the first, introduction, it was kind of like a curiosity. Like I stumbled across something, in Dad's drawer, and it piqued my curiosity as a young boy and a young man, just like any young boy would. Like, what is this? And why does looking at this body give me this feeling inside? Because when I see, my sister, or when I see the girl next door, it doesn't do the same thing to me. So there's an element of curiosity. And then as, technology began to really rise, I worked in the cell phone industry. So I had access to smartphones before most people did. And I think I didn't understand the real dangers back then. So I probably suffered with it for 20 years due to the chemical effects of it. I think if I would have had somebody like myself or Rob, real voice out there that is passionate about this and educating people, I probably wouldn't have struggled with it. So it didn't start because of the chemical, but I know for certain that's what made it as difficult, or that's what stayed with me as long, because I've shared a lot of my own kind of personal struggles and how I knew I had a problem, but I wasn't really wasn't really willing to face it. So no, early on it was more of a curiosity thing, and then without me knowing it, yeah, it definitely hooked me. Because I've had issues with substances, and that's why I really enjoyed the conversation with Rob, because it brought a lot of insight on me and my issues that I've had with alcohol and drugs and whatnot. But I think if I answered your question, no, it wasn't initially due to that, but it definitely had a major impact on me. Yes.
Awesome. Yes. I love that question, guys. Frank Rich is on the show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this. Hi guys, welcome back. Welcome to the show again. That was awesome. That was Road Killer Recovery Group. That's who we are in the background. The only company in the world that offers a money-back guarantee should you relapse after following and continue to follow our program. Put your money where your mouth is what we say. So Frank, let's go back a little bit. I mean, the porn and obviously childhood trauma. When was if you remember when was the specific time when you thought, damn, this is enough. This is out of control?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I remember the day like it was yesterday. I mean, it was the beginning of this journey that I've been on for the last 2.5, plus years now. It was February 14th, 2019. It's ironic that it, was the day of love. But I was in a relationship at the time, very serious. We've been dating for a couple of years. We were living together. And that conversation of like, what does the future look like, was beginning to be had. And I had heard a podcast probably 6 months before that, which was the first time I heard another man talk about his struggles. So in between hearing that podcast and then February 14th, I did a lot of research. That's just my background. Like if I have an idea, I want to dive in and figure out, okay, what's the research supporting this? What are other people saying about it? And then in gathering all that, I begin to really see a lot of signs. One of the best books, for people that are interested in this topic is Your Brain on Porn by Gary Wilson. But, on that day in February 14th, I was sitting in my car after workout with, a very close friend of mine. And he shared with me that he was doing some breathing stuff and some Wim Hof stuff to kind of help harness his sexual energy. And it was helping him stay away from pornography. And I said, Zach, what are you talking about? Like, Zach is a very good friend of mine. He was a Marine, super strong alpha man. So to hear him say he was struggling with porn and he was finding ways to work around it, I was very intrigued with it. So, we got into that a little bit. And because I'd been thinking about, my own issues for a while, I vowed to him that day. I said, Zach, I'm going to change my life. And I need these two things. I need you to follow up and be the accountability for me. And I needed to share it with Stephanie. Stephanie was my girlfriend at the time. Our paths have split, unfortunately, but she was a very important part back then. But yeah, I remember the day like it was yesterday.
Wow. Sounds to me like Zach was kind of like someone God put in your life to kind of trigger you to get to maybe identify or admit your issues. I think it was kind of is it accurate to say it was kind of in your head? And then once he said it, it was like, okay, so that's beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. I agree wholeheartedly that was, that day, everything was orchestrated, by God, 100%.
Can you tell us about when you decided to give yourself to Christ?
Yeah, it's another really powerful, story. So for me, I wasn't born into, a religious home. There was no real talk of faith or religion or anything. As a kid, I think the parents like sent us off like 2 summers to like vacation Bible school. And I knew back then that it was just a way for them to like get us out of the house. Like there was no real like go learn this and then bring it back. So as I grew and mature and got into my, adult life, like I avoided the topic. I avoided the conversation. If I was ever in a group of people and religion or, atheism versus religion came up, like I would kind of remove myself from it and be like, okay, guys, when you're back to like having fun, like let me know and I'll be involved in it. So it's something I avoided for a very long time. And I don't know if that's because like I was living a life that I knew wouldn't align with that. And then it's kind of been really unique through my kind of entrepreneurship journey. So I started a company back in 2013 that had massive, I want to say massive success because obviously, I have Dr. Rob here who's, millions and millions of dollars, but we did about $500,000 in our second year, which for a new startup company, brand new entrepreneur, it was a success. But due to my addiction, like I wasn't able to grow and scale that. So I kind of stayed there for like 3 years and then I just lost it all. And I knew I needed to get around some other business people, some other entrepreneurs. So I joined a mastermind in 2017. It was an online marketing mastermind. And through that, I got introduced to, for the first time in my life, what I saw was examples of like strong Christian men. And I didn't know at the time that the thing that brought them all together was their faith and was their belief. But from the first time meeting me, they welcomed me into their world. They're like, Frank, we love you. Like, come join us for workouts and this and that. I'm like, why are these guys so nice to me? Like, do they know like who I am? But it was every week they welcome me. And then I got to know their families and I got to see them, with their kids. And I got to see them with, how they operate with their employees. And I was like, there's something special about every single one of them. What is it? So if we fast forward to, late 2018, I was struggling. Career-wise. One business, I was, 6 figures in debt and not sure what that was going to look like, how I was going to ever get out of it. My online marketing business that I was trying to start didn't take off. I was driving Uber and delivering groceries just to like be able to pay my bills. And I remember, standing in the kitchen one night, it was around September 2018, and I was with Stephanie that I've mentioned with you guys. And I said, Steph, I don't know what is not working. Like, why can't I get something to catch? I'm like, I'm going to the events. I'm following everything that, Mike and Dan and all these guys are doing. Why isn't my business taking off? I'm like, maybe we need to go to church. Like, maybe that's the missing thing. And Stephanie had been raised Catholic, and she kind of walked away from her faith, but she was open to it. She said, yeah, I'd be interested and I'd support you in that. We didn't act upon it. But a month later, somebody that I had met in that original mastermind flew down to Florida. He lived in Pennsylvania, and we had stayed connected. And he said, hey, Frank, I'm coming to Florida. Why don't we hang out? Why don't we have lunch? So I had to drive about an hour from Tampa to Orlando to meet him. And then I picked him up at his hotel. He said, where are we going? I said, I don't know. Like, let's just go downtown Orlando. We happened to park on Church Street, which anybody that knows Orlando, Church Street, it's like right there it's right next to the Amway Center. It's like one of the most popular streets in downtown Orlando. So we find ourselves, sitting in this, steakhouse on October 23rd, 2018 on Church Street in downtown Orlando. We're one of like 3 people in the entire restaurant. The minute we sit down, the waiter comes, gives us our drinks. And Josh, who was with me, he said, hey, we're going to be a while. You don't need to come back for a while. We're going to have a conversation. And Josh looks at me. He goes, do you mind if I ask you 2 questions, Frank? And I said, sure. He goes, how's your relationship with your dad? And what do you know about God? And I was like kind of blown away. I'm like, what did you just say? So Josh had known me. Like, we stayed very close. I met him about a year and a half prior to that. But that question, because of what I had said a month before, because I had already been kind of entertaining the idea, like I was fully open for it. So Josh and I sat there. I mean, I don't know, it probably was 3 or 4 hours in that restaurant that day. And he shared the gospel with me. And I was so open and ready to receive it. And at the end of it, he said, are you ready? And I said, yeah. Like, what I do? He said, well, we have to go, outside somewhere and we'll pray and then I'll get you set up and, you got to start taking the next step. So we walked outside in front of the History Center in downtown Orlando, and, Josh placed his hands on my back and, we prayed together for the first time. And that's kind of been the catalyst for everything I'm doing, today.
Wow. What a story. It's a freaking awesome story. I have a similar one. I was on the streets. I remember crying one night, my hands and knees, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I remember looking up to the sky and says, if there's a God up there, I can't do this anymore. Everyone's heard that story. But what they haven't heard is when I got back to the guy's house, Derek, his name was, he said, you've got to come to 12-step meetings with me. I'm like, oh. He says, the only condition, Rob. So I went the next day with him. And the war story started and all that crap that I hate. But there's one guy there about 12 o'clock to where I was sitting at 6. And he said, my name's John and I'm a recovered alcoholic, which I'd never heard before. It's like, wow, who is this guy? And he talked with passion, but he's a quiet man. He referred to the book loads of times that and after I finished, I walked over and I said, hey, can you sponsor me? And he said, no. He said, but I will be your spiritual advisor for a period of 12 weeks. So he said, grab a big book and grab a dictionary. I'm like, oh, I went to Oxford. I don't need a dictionary. He said, buy a dictionary. Okay. So I walked to that man's house every Wednesday. I left it around, I want to say 6, got there for 7, got back home for 8 or 9 because I spent an hour with him. I walked to that man's house for 12 weeks and he was telling me stuff. And he kept telling me that God's going to send me around the world and you're going to be very powerful. And, I was born to do this. And this is why I've been struggling and all this stuff. And I kind of believed him. And he said life would change from tomorrow. And I was like, wow, did my step 12 and walked out a different man. I felt a different, but not, I got different, just felt different. So when I got back the next day, went to somebody found me a job. I went to work. It was amazing. Part-time job, which later turned into a full-time job. Like within days. And then the next week following, somebody gave me a battered Mini to travel to work and back. And I'm like, wow, that John's crazy, man. But so when I first got my paycheck, I went to the gas station and I bought him a little teddy bear. That's all I could afford. Like, I don't know, 20 pence it was. And a card. And I said, thank you, John, for taking me to the next level or something like that. And I walked back to his house. And when I got there, there was nobody in. But I was banging the door that loud that the neighbor on the right came out and he says, can I help you, love? And I said, can you tell me where John's relocated to? And she said, John has been knowing that apartment for at least 4 months that I've been here. I said, okay, crazy woman. So they closed the door. And I went to the left-hand door and I'm banging on his door now because I'm like, this woman's crazy. I need to find John. And he comes to the door and I said, can you tell where John's moved to? He said, John. I'm like, what? Again? John, the guy. He said, that flat is derelict. There's been no in that apartment for 12 months. And I'm like, he said, you've got the wrong apartment. I'm like, no. I let him close the door and I looked at it. I said, no, this is where I've been going for 12 weeks. So the next day I went back to the meeting where I met him at. And I said to the guys there, do you remember John? And they're going, John. I'm like, enough already, John. Jeez. I was over near the coffee machine talking to him, and he took me through the program. And one of the guys started to like snicker, going, and I grabbed him by the throat. I was that mad at these people, and I rammed him up against the wall and said, don't you ever ridicule me. And he dragged me off and he said, Rob, what's going on with you? You was over at the coffee machine talking to yourself. Never found that man. No one's heard of him, never found of him. And that is the knowledge which I built the program on, which guarantees people they can recover. So now I do have God in my life. I want to speak to Journey and thousands of other things that should not have happened to me, Frank. Passport was gone 2 weeks before I come here. I looked at the passport, out of date. It takes at least 6 weeks in England to get a passport. I went down to the office. It just said, you can't go to America for 2 weeks. I come back and 3 days later, my passport was delivered. There's 100 stories I can tell you about that, where God's just putting me in this position, standing up against the bullies in this addiction world and not taking any shit of anybody, which I don't. I really don't. I'm a nice guy, but you step over that invisible line and I will knock you out. And it'll get rough because, you know, one of the books I read, the big book of 12-step meetings says, as God's people, we stand on our own 2 feet. We don't bow or crawl before anybody. And I like that. I really do. So say somebody comes to you, Frank, tomorrow, calls you up and need help. What's the first thing you tell them on the phone?
Somebody calls me and says they need help.
Yes.
Whew. That's a big one. I would I wouldn't want to talk to them on the phone. I would try to get them to see if, and this is probably not really the answering your question that well, but I would try to get them on a Zoom call because I want to look them in the face. And I want to have a real intimate conversation, and I want to let them know that the only way that anything that we do together is going to work if they're honest and they're vulnerable. And I think that's why it's important for them to see my eyes when I share that information with them, and I let them know the power of honesty, because my life changed the minute I stopped lying. I was a liar for 20 years. I was a liar to myself, and I was a liar, to the world. I, was building a fitness business, or I was attempting to do it. I was attempting to become an influencer and, put a positive message out in the world, but I was secretly keeping, my own struggles and my own compulsive behavior to myself. Like I talked about, I've known that I've had an issue for a super long time. Like I would be in the shopping mall, like on a Saturday afternoon date with my girlfriend. I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna excuse myself. I have to go up and use the restroom. And the only reason I would walk away is because I knew that if I gone into like a Dillard's or Macy's, I could have private, in the large, handicapped restroom, and it would be very quiet. And it would literally would take a break from a date to go look at pornography just so I could have a release. So probably the first thing I say is only this is going to work. Anything we do is if you're fully honest and vulnerable about what we discuss. So that would probably be the first thing I would say.
Nice. I like that. Running out of time again, unfortunately, Frank. Kristen's got one more question for you.
I just wanted to say, what would you say to the agnostics? The people who don't really believe in God or never have had spirituality in their life, like kind of like how you were when you were younger. What would you say to them?
And in terms of
maybe
belief,
possibly
faith,
like
God or pornography?
Yes, opening their heart to maybe faith or to God.
Wow, these are great questions. Well, I think you have two camps there. You have the agnostics, which kind of, probably what I fell into, which is like, I'm not gonna say yes or no. I'm just gonna kind of fall down the middle. I would just ask them, why do you feel that way? Like, what is your lack of belief? Like, I would try to get underneath what they're saying and figure out where is that actually coming from? Is that a fear of avoiding the truth? Or is that what they really believe? And I think for most people, I think it's a fear of avoiding the truth. So that's what I would do, is I try to get underneath what they're saying and figure out where is all that coming from. And I want to add, because I think it's a great question. What would I say to maybe a non-believer about pornography? Because I feel that people only look at pornography as it's bad because it's a sin, or if it's bad because the Bible tells you that you shouldn't look at it, or you shouldn't lust after women. It's why I've tried to take our entire message and everything we do, even though we are a Christian company, we have the spiritual and the prayer component to it. I try to address it from the science side of things. Like, if you're trying to live your best life, like become the best version, which is a word that people use all the time, and I don't think they really understand what they're saying. If your goal is human performance or optimization or peak performance, there's no place in your life for pornography, and nobody is going to be able to tell me any other way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think looking at the science part will prove there's a God, and you've got to believe in him if you want to get well. That's the bottom line. Frank, as usual, out of time. We're running over, but thank you so much for coming on, man. I mean, it's just always a pleasure. I mean, once again, I've done it before, but thank you, man, for everything you do. I mean, the people you affect, including me, and I'm sure Kristen today, with some of the answers and the direction. We really, really appreciate you coming on, man. I know you're a busy guy, just like all of us, but we got to do this again, brother. It's been really good.
Amen.
Kristen, I'll leave you to say bye.
Okay. Bye, Frank. Thank you so much for all that you do and for being on our show. And I just wanted to say that I found it you're just picking your brain was so interesting. And just thank you again.
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys.
If you want to get in touch with Frank, please message me or email me or tag me on Facebook. We'll give you all the links to his show, of course, and his website. But for now, guys, from myself, from Kristen, and from Frank, have a fantastic week, guys. And remember, trauma is the gateway drug.